Welcome back. Tomorrow, the nation's top spy masters are going to have to testify in the Senate about the current level of terror threats around the world. And it's a week before the Sochi Olympics, and after a year of angry public debate following Edward Snowden's revelations. Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Dianne Feinstein joins me now. Senator, there's so much going on in that arena. First of all, let me ask you about Sochi. How safe is Sochi, and are we getting the cooperation we need from the Russians?
Well, I think we are in that sense, from what I know, which is actually very limited. However, you know, terrorism is up in the world over the last few years. There's no question about that. I think the Russians are going to make a full-court press to provide protection, and I assume there will be many rounds of gates that people will have to go through, which may ferret something out or may not ferret something out. But tomorrow we have the World Threat Hearing, and that will be, as you say, an opportunity here from all of our head people in the intelligence world about the worldwide threats that exist. And I think the conclusion that I draw from what I've seen and read is that the threat is up, not in this country, because the intelligence community has been very able to prevent plots in this country from emerging into actual attacks. And, you know, some of that's been involved with the NSA debate as well as with other things. But there is no question that the number of people killed by terrorist attacks is way up.
The government's privacy board last week came out in a very different place from you and President Obama, ruling that, in fact, the collection, not holding all of the telephone records and data, but even the collection of all that metadata is not that beneficial and actually should be abandoned. Now, this is not where the president came out in his speech and not at all where you came out. What about that recommendation and this really fractious debate about how invasive it needs to be, the NSA, to keep us safe?
Well, the point of this is to have the specific metadata pieces of information, no content of anyone's phone call.
But they said that actually didn't help that much.
Instantaneously, if a terrorist calls in to somebody in this country and there's an element of reasonable suspicion, that you can go in and just query that database for the calls it makes, which the president has now limited to 2 calls. And thereby, if there is something, you send it to the FBI gets a probable cause warrant, and they can go out and do a full investigation. When used with other things, it's not only used alone. It has brought forward information, I believe, on a number of attacks and prevented them from happening. And, you know, if you look at this world today with the spread of terrorist groups, look at North Africa, look at Mali, look at the Central African Republic, look at Somalia, look at what's happening in Syria in terms of attracting some terrible fighters there that even Zawahiri has said are going beyond the bounds. If you see all of that happening and you know that they have an intention to come after us, the only way you can stop it is through intelligence, of knowing what they're going to do early enough to be able to piece the pieces together and disrupt the plot.
From what you now know, do you think that Edward Snowden did have help from the Russians? It's something that Mike Rogers suggested on Meet the Press, and I know you were on that program, but on a satellite from San Francisco that day, so I'm not sure you had the full benefit of being able to respond.
That's right. I have no information to that effect. I've never seen anything to that effect. I've asked some questions since, and nothing's been forthcoming.
What do you want to hear from the president tonight in the State of the Union at a time when the polling shows, our NBC News Wall Street Journal poll shows, extraordinary pessimism and disengagement directed at the president and at Congress?
Well, here's what I want to hear. I want to hear an optimistic speech that rallies Americans to their base passions to be able to come together and move this economy forward. I think it's going to be economic opportunity. I think it's going to be about income inequality, which is getting to be a really big problem in that 1% of the people have been able to garner 95% of the benefits of economic economic recovery, and the bottom have just lost out. So you've got a problem of serious misdistribution of income. And I think we need to work on that. And I think the first step is the minimum wage. And the president, I believe, as you know, is going to say that he, through his executive order, is going to move forward with a minimum wage increase to federal contractors. It's my understanding that this could affect 200 to 300,000 people. It is a step in the right direction. California is San Francisco's minimum wage. They're looking at $15. And other cities are looking at $10.10 too. So I think to raise the minimum wage to $10.10 is really something that we need to do.
Dianne Feinstein, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.